Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Ultimate Doctor Who Marathon. This is the show where I take a look at every classic Doctor Who story, plus a bunch of Big Finish audio dramas, one episode a day, 7 days a week. And it's the 200th episode of this show. Yeah, I've made 200 episodes. We have gone through, essentially almost the reigns of the first three Doctors, and nearly the reigns of Tom Baker's legendary run as the fourth Doctor. Though we're in 200 episodes. And today, on the 4th of October, 2019, we're starting actually the last Tom Baker audio. It's not the last Tom Baker story. We still have, I think, we still have 6 more stories with Tom Baker, but we're getting pretty close to the end of his run now. And we're starting with The Thief Who Stole Time, which is the second part of the big 2-part finale, starting with part 1. Now, The Thief Who Stole Time is a very... It's very interesting. I think, again, well, one, this is one of the very few, like one of only 3 series of Fourth Doctor adventures for the finale not to be written by Nicholas Briggs, and I think that helps a lot. It's Nick Briggs, of course, is a great writer, but what happens is that is that having Nick Briggs write everything, you really don't get that big sense of so you really get a very different feel now that because you have Mark Platt writing the finale, and that's a good thing. Mainly because Mark Platt writes this finale really, really well. Tonally, um, 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 you just have something that feels... Well, it feels like this is a season 18 story. This has that slow sci-fi feeling with a little bit of almost magical fantasy, kind of magical realism slipped in there for good measure. It's something which is something that I think is excellent. It's a great sort of idea to have this sort of magical realism and this real sense of everything being a nice little being this little chat, this little diversion from just about everything else, because The Thief Who Stole Time, a lot of this episode is narrated by the Skald, which sort of, again, gives it that different feel where you kind of question... I mean, you kind of question, like, well, what really is going on here? Is this, going the way I think it's going? Or are we doing something else? What really is this... What is this plot? And why is this plot doing it's very interesting. Like, you have other characters show up here with these creepy balloons and things that really give you really give a good sense that Mark Platt is doing interesting things here. He's got an interesting idea going. He's got the plot working, and he's trying to give us something where you can really sink your teeth into it. Because you have like, there's this idea that this entire planet is actually a fake planet created by the Time Lords, and it's a really solid idea, and Sartia's trying to, like, create time. She's basically turned into a megalomaniacal villain, and it's really good. It's really well done. Um, um, it's a really solid. Um, it's a really solid way of opening the story, and it builds things up. Like, you have the Doctor actually gets a lot to do here. He's turned into a storyteller, and he ends up quoting Macbeth quite a bit, um, as um, as Macbeth is kind of one of those things uh, that gets itself, that is sort of like, it really enters the fray here. It creates. This is a story where it creates this atmosphere, and I think it's amazing. It's one of those stories that you kind of have to experience. Like, it's much more than, like, this is about just some giant space heels. No, there's something deeper going on, and I think Mark Platt does an excellent job of exploring that sort of deeper nature. So overall, I'm going to give The Thief Who Stole Time Part 1 an 8 out of 10. Alright, it is the 5th of October 2019, and I just finished listening to Part 2 of The Thief Who Stole Time. Part 2 of The Thief Who Stole Time is an episode where I think Romana gets Lalla Ward as Romana, perhaps gets one of her best performances and catharsis of her character, and gets some of her best written work overall. Now, I say this because it is a story where you have Sartia, you have Romana. Sartia makes Romana question herself, essentially, is what happens in this story. Is Romana ends up questioning who she is to the Doctor, what it means that she's traveling with the Doctor, and really just, as a whole, what kind of her purpose is. Because Sartia is basically trying to steal the power of this planet by creating this sense of just this sort of illusions with time, and she's messing around with time, and in messing around with time, she's basically making it so that time, that, like, there's several possible features on this planet, and she can take over the planet and use that to take over the universe. It's not the most original plan, and it's not the most well thought out plan, but it's a plan that works well for what it needs to be, and that is a plan about the characters. It's a plan for Sartia to sort of show who she is. It's a plan for Sartia to show that she means business, and that she's, who she is. But what it really does is it gives Romana time to reflect. There's this idea that that Sartia plants in Romana's mind that she's arrogant, not willing to have fun. Gallifrey is going to want her back, and in wanting her back, Gallifrey's it's not gonna want her to travel with the Doctor anymore and just be stuck cataloging other Time Lords. You know, another type of, like she's just going to be stuck basically in an office. The rest of the Time Lords are allowed to catalog the universe. And she's one which is just quite sad. It's it's one of those. It's this story where you get to an ending, the ending of the plot, based on who Romana is, and you just get a lot here. Like, the story ends with this great dialogue between the Doctor and Romana, all about how Romana, you're basically meant to travel with the Doctor. Like, you are handpicked. Think of the countless times you've saved the universe, and basically saying, don't forget, you're actually really, really valuable as a companion, and you really do bring something to the role, which is excellent. Tom Baker does an amazing job in that scene, and that in that scene is something where you have a real sense of just kind of sadness, honestly. It ends. It's a scene that kind of ends the story, and ends it on such a high note, and it's really, really good. There's also just the rest of the story. There's this sense of impending danger. For a finale, this story takes place basically all on a single planet. It's pretty self-contained. It's not like, the entire universe is at stake here. It's one of those. It's one of those just things where it's it's one of those really it's one of those really important stories like that you kind of need something. You kind of need something that's that's this sort of small and this type of story. You have the stuff with the few the few characters really trying to survive while the Sleek come and attack and become the big kind of cliche monster. And I will say having the big cliche monster is just a little bit of just a little bit based off of just sort of how kind of weird it is. It doesn't quite make a lot of sense here. It's not the best, but it's simple. You have the family coming together and having a Skald. You have the previous Skald turning out to be alive. That's why he's been narrating. Which actually, I usually wouldn't like that twist, but because it's actually set up pretty decently because he is in fact he's been narrating this entire story the whole time, that you get a real sense that things that sort of happens is something that is really, really solid. And I have to say that is something that this story, the story just excels because of it. This is an excellent little way of sort of the story. It's just sort of the way the story works. It's small, and it works really, really well. You have, again, this is, if you're a fan of Romana, or even if you're not a fan of Romana, this is a story where you will learn to appreciate her, and you will appreciate the second Romana in particular. It's a story that's important for this. So overall, I'm going to give The Thief Who Stole Time Part 2 another 8 out of 10. That being said, we add up the scores and average them out to give The Thief Who Stole Time a final score of 8 out of 10. Thank you, everybody, once again, for watching this installment of the Ultimate Doctor Who Marathon. Once again, thank you for 200 episodes of the show. I love making it. I hope you love watching it. Of course, as always, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. I do read the comments, and I love to hear from you guys, see if you agree with me, disagree, whatever the fact may be. And once again, thanks for watching this final audio adventure, this final episode that will be covering an audio adventure for Tom Baker. And join me next time when we start when we continue on with season 18, and get closer and closer to the end of Tom Baker's run with MEGLOS.